What's poppin', everybody? This is Tom and Joey Entertainment. I am Joey, and welcome back to the Realest News. This is a weekly segment where Tom and I keep it real and discuss the most important news stories going on all around the world in order to keep you informed. And speaking of, I'm joined, as always, by Tom. Tom, what is happening?
What's crack-a-lackin'? Ready to get back on some fresh hot takes.
Hot takes! It's good to have you back. Now, before we get into our main topic, let's give you a little recap of the week. On Sunday, April 16th, Steve Stevens recorded and uploaded a video of himself shooting and killing 74-year-old Robert Godwin Sr.
I found somebody I'm about to kill this guy right here.
The encounter happened around 2 p.m. Easter Sunday, according to Cleveland police. This horrific incident sent law enforcement all across the country into a nationwide manhunt. On Tuesday, April 18th, police caught up with Stevens in Pennsylvania after he was spotted at a McDonald's drive-thru, and after a brief chase, Stevens took his own life. On Thursday, April 13th, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau released legislation that would make Canada the first industrialized nation to legalize marijuana.
The proposed legislation, which is introduced today, seeks to legalize, strictly regulate, and restrict access to cannabis.
If it passes Parliament, which is widely expected, marijuana will be legally available across Canada by mid-2018. Although recreational marijuana for adults is legal in 8 U.S. states, Canada's proposed legislation is a major milestone for the legalization movement. On Sunday, April 16th, Turkish voters approved constitutional changes designed to make Turkish President Erdogan presidential powers stronger. The results were extraordinarily close, with votes approving the increase in power having just 51% of the overall vote. If fully implemented, Turkey would go from a parliamentary democracy to a government run by a strong executive president who would also absorb the powers covered normally by the prime minister. Opposition leaders are demanding a review of the ballots as the results of the election were extremely controversial and suspiciously unexpected. And finally, on Saturday, April 15th, Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un of North Korea launched a single-stage missile test after an annual nationwide celebration filled with military artillery and equipment. According to U.S. officials, the missile exploded 4 to 5 seconds after it launched near a North Korean submarine base along the country's eastern coast. The failure is fueling speculation about the possibility that the U.S. may be using cyber technology to interfere with North Korea's missile program. So although it was a very busy week, our main topic of discussion is Trump's involvement in his own foreign policy. This topic of discussion comes as a result of the Syrian missile attack that was launched a few weeks ago, and this attack that was launched by the U.S. military just last week.
The largest conventional bomb ever dropped in combat exploded above a complex of caves and tunnels in a remote area of eastern Afghanistan. The top U.S. commander adamant the mission was only about killing ISIS.
So given the Syrian missile attack on the airbase against Assad's regime and the Moab that was dropped in eastern Afghanistan, Tom, I ask you this. Do you think Trump is really heavily involved in his own foreign policy, or do you think he's kind of taking a hands-off approach when it comes to military action and kind of letting his generals and letting the Pentagon do most of the work?
I definitely think that he's more hands-off, especially in comparison to previous presidents. It's hard to make those claims without evidence, and there's really no evidence other than the fact that when reporters ask him questions, they're very open-ended, they're very vague. They're statements that he can use for anything. They aren't specific, they aren't data-driven, that sort of thing. But it shouldn't be that shocking either, because that's not the platform he runs off. When asked, like, what are you going to do about ISIS, he says, I'm going to quote-unquote bomb the shit out of them. He doesn't say, this is what we're going to implement and stuff like that. Now, the caveat to that is that he, by his own words, says that he doesn't want to give out too much military information because he thinks that puts too much power if everyone knows what we're doing. And I totally get that. So there is the possibility that he just is behind everything and he keeps it all secret, but I doubt it. And to be honest, I don't really dock him for that, because this is why you have a cabinet. People have more experience in these areas, including the generals and the people that are in the military. So giving them more power, I have no beef with that at all.
Yeah, and what Tom's talking about there when reporters ask him, especially talking about the Moab bomb, because I'm sure you've heard it's the biggest non-nuclear bomb that we have as a part of the United States military arsenal, and it's the biggest bomb that we've dropped in combat, obviously. And when Tom talks about Trump's open-ended answers to these questions, this is what he's talking about.
We are so proud of our military, and it was another successful event.
Did you authorize it, sir?
Everybody knows exactly what happened, and what I do is I authorize my military. We have the greatest military in the world, and they've done a job as usual.
Instead of a yes or no answer, which it should be, because the reporter just simply asks, did you sign off on this attack? Because as the President of the United States, you are also Commander-in-Chief of the Army and of the troops. They ask him this simple question, and expecting a yes or no answer, he gives this elaborate, open-ended, just confusing answer that doesn't really answer the question at all. Like you said, I agree that some decisions, especially military decisions, as Trump has literally zero and maybe even negative amount of experience dealing with foreign policy and military action. It's good that he's deferring to his cabinet positions and his highly qualified people in the Pentagon, especially his National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, which we are both a fan of on this channel. But really, my biggest problem with how he handles certain information and the administration handles these missile attacks and these airstrikes is the way that they report it. Because when you look at Obama's administration in the 8 years that he was in charge, a lot of the airstrikes that he conducted, I mean, he conducted airstrikes on the daily in the Middle East against terrorist enemies in Syria and Afghanistan, Iraq, against ISIS. All these attacks were kind of on the down low, and you would hear about certain attacks if they were highly successful, and then maybe videos would be released sometimes even months later. With this administration, especially with the Syrian missile attack, they released the video of the missiles going at the Syrian air base almost an hour, not even, maybe, after the attack happened. The Moab bomb, they released the video, the Department of Defense released the video not even a day after the attack happened. So it's like people are praising Trump and saying that he's doing more than Obama did and doing more to combat the enemy in the Middle East and combat terrorism. But I think it's just the fact of Trump and his administration are showing more of what they're doing in an attempt to just, I wouldn't call it propaganda because it's actually happening. It's not like they're spreading false things, but there is this sense of a propaganda type thing when they release these videos because it's kind of showing, oh, look at how strong our military is, look at how big the bombs are that we're dropping on the enemy. And it's kind of misleading because Obama did really just as much as Trump did.
I mean, we talked about this over the weekend. If the end goal is to publicize this more so enemies are more deterred from it because they see what we're seeing as citizens. If you look at the general populace and they're thinking, wow, Trump is doing a lot more than Obama did. If that's what's being reported, if that's the narrative, and you're saying that if we take that same narrative, put it in the enemy's eyes, and maybe they're not going to lash out at us as much, or, I mean, I say that, I'm fully aware that, I mean, we've been rolling back ISIS. They are not strong. They are crumbling at the seams by all means. I get that. If you're saying that there's other powers that might pose a bigger threat, like for instance, maybe North Korea, and you're saying, oh, you put this narrative to the world that says, hey, don't with us, there's a new sheriff in town, yada yada yada, whatever you want that to be. If that's your end goal, if that's the rationale, I can connect those dots. But again, when you're a reporter, you're CNN, you're Fox, you're CNBC, whoever, and you ask a question and you just get right back to square one, it's hard to see where the actual flow of logic is going. So I always try and think the best of any situation. So I'd like to think that publicizing it is helping us and not hurting us, but I can definitely see the other way around too.
And especially when you see Trump interact with other foreign leaders, and especially on the public stage where he can't rely on a teleprompter or can't rely on his cabinet or his higher up military intelligent minds, that's where it kind of leads into a problem, because if he's actually not contributing to foreign policy and not contributing on an international scale when it comes to military action, when he's encountered with these questions and encountered with dialogue with other foreign leaders, especially when they have those press conferences where they're both standing up and answering questions, if he sounds like a bumbling idiot and it doesn't sound like he knows what he's talking about or really knows what's even going on, that is going to negate the image of not only our country, because it shows that our highest elected official doesn't know what's going on in arguably the most important issue of our time with foreign policy and defeating terrorism and international conflict, and it negates really the administration in general.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's seeing through the bullshit. The world leaders, they're not idiots. If they know what they're talking about, they can see when someone doesn't. There's just so much speculation, and unfortunately, that's just kind of the world we live in. We just go off of what was reported. I haven't talked to the Donald in a while, so maybe I'll give him a call this weekend and get his thoughts. But,
hopefully we'll have him on the channel sometime soon.
Yeah. I mean, we sit down with Obama and Donald, and we'll hash it all out.
And the last thing we wanted to bring up, when we speak about Trump knowing the nitty-gritty details of the actions that he is signing off on, because regardless whether he's actually involved in the military action, regardless if he's actually involved in the planning of these military actions, he has to sign off. He is the commander-in-chief. That is one of the main responsibilities of the presidency. In order to sign off on these things, you have to know specific details, such as, the country that you're bombing.
I was sitting at the table. We had finished dinner. We're now having dessert. And we had the most beautiful piece of chocolate cake that you've ever seen. And President Xi was enjoying it. And I said, Mr. President, let me explain something to you. This is during dessert. So what happens is, I said, we've just launched 59 missiles heading to Iraq.
Well, you headed to Syria.
Yes, heading toward Syria.
So as you can see with that interview, not only do you have the President of the United States doing a promotion about the dessert at his resort at Mar-a-Lago, but he is corrected by the Fox News reporter on what country he actually sent missiles to.
Yo, all I'm saying is that must have been some bomb-ass chocolate cake. No pun intended, but that it must have been absolute fire. If you are so clouded in your head that you can only think about how dang that chocolate cake was, he probably was just like, damn, that was some delicious cake. Oh wait, what was the question? Yeah, Iraq? Oh no, yeah, Syria. You know,
No,
same thing.
yeah, Syria. He was probably licking his fingers as he was signing off on the orders. Yeah, attack them, send the missiles, whatever.
I mean, little things like that on the surface, do they really matter in the grand scheme of things? Of course not. But it's those little things when they add up, complemented with, you know, we're going to quote unquote bomb the shit out of them. That sort of constant narrative going back, he's taking these huge long answers, these vague answers, and he's dancing around questions. In my head, I'm just like, yeah, this guy has no idea what the is going on. Do I know that for a fact? No. But when I listen to you talk and you say...
And we had the most beautiful piece of chocolate cake that you've ever seen.
And then you up what country you bombed? I mean, yo, you're the president. Get your straight in line. Forget the chocolate cake for like 5 minutes. Go ham sauce on it later. That's fine. So again, can't emphasize it enough. Not trying to just, you know, all over anyone's beliefs or values. I mean, if you are a staunch Trump supporter, no problem at all. Not a big deal whatsoever. I'm sure you have plenty of valid reasons why you'd support everything he's done with the military. That's fine. It's just the chocolate cake thing, man. That's hilarious. Like, even if you're a supporter, you gotta laugh your ass off at that.
Yeah. Really, the main fact here is that, especially when it comes to the seat of the presidency, every word that you speak in an interview, recorded, private conversation, no matter what you say and how you say it is incredibly important. So there you have it, everybody. There are our thoughts on Trump's foreign policy, the recent missile attacks that he's launched, his wonderful, wonderful piece of chocolate cake. If you have any opinions about his foreign policy, or if you just want to talk about how much you love chocolate cake, please let us know in the comment section below. We love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video and learned something along the way, give it a like underneath that video and hit that subscribe button if you want to come back and see more videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And as always, I'm Joey.
And I'm Tom.
We will see you next time. Peace.